Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Opinion Piece, the show where I give my unfiltered, unscripted opinions on a gaming related topic. Today's topic, I guess the big important question to start with is why am I talking about this? Well, the simple answer is because I can. All humor aside, I saw this movie, I think roughly 2 weeks ago, and apparently it was so fascinating and so interesting, like just so interesting on my mind that it's kind of just thinking about it has kind of kept me awake at night. Doesn't really help that I'm an insomniac, but I really feel like I need to talk about this movie. I mean, I don't have to, but I feel like I have to when I want to, and this is kind of just me venting it out so I can stop thinking about it and get on with my life. So so Tomb Raider happens, and it just kind of faded from the face of the earth. Like, it happened, did its run, and faded away. And I found it kind of particularly interesting. Now, I'm a big Tomb Raider fan. I grew up lightly, like, knowing what the franchise was and lightly playing the games as a kid. And as I got older, kind of faded out of the franchise, and then it wasn't until the more recent series of games, which referred to as the Survivor timeline, that it wasn't until I really jumped back in, and I played the games with a near, just a degree of obsession that I cannot explain. Every free second I had back in the day for both games, I played the hell out of them. Back in my days when I could still binge play through video games without any consideration or concern for my personal health. That's how addicted and obsessed I was. I can't really do that crap anymore. So yeah, I love those games. So when it was announced that a film adaptation based on it would be happening, I was excited, but at the same time very skeptical. Excited because I thought, well, since there's a greater focus on narrative and character this time around, it'd be easier to create a movie around that. Skeptical because it's a video game movie, and we don't exactly have the world's greatest track record for that. And I don't normally hold an incredibly high bar for that kind of stuff. So, kind of glass half full, just waited to see I saw the trailers, I saw the advertisements, and I kept a very lukewarm mindset of like, all right, I'm going to go see the movie. If it's good, fine. If it's not, whatever. No harm done. So I finally go see the movie, and it was fine. It's okay. It's not the magnum opus or or just spectacularly amazing film that some people are making it out to be, but it's not the steaming pile of disappointment that others are making it out to be. It's in that gray area. It's in that fine gray area that only so many people seem to be in, which is weird. And the biggest thing I attributed this to is we as people still have no idea how to critique video game movies. Ever since the idea was incepted back in the day to the present, we still have no freaking clue how to critique video game movies. And that's probably why that's why they just really don't pick up the way they do unless you're the Resident Evil franchise that somehow was able to get 6 movies and now a film reboot, but I shouldn't sidetrack. But the thing that really makes Tomb Raider interesting is just how much of a divide there is. Usually in the past when there's a video game movie, it's just it comes out, it has its run, people watch it, some people don't. Some people like it, but the mass majority dislike it. And it just fades away from our minds, and that's the end of it. But in this case, there was, from what I can tell, an absolute, practically a 50-50 split of people regarding the opinion on this film. Half of people loved this movie. Half of people saw this movie in droves the day it came out. You got and just absolutely loved it. From your diehard fans who otherwise would practically live and breathe Lara Croft in her adventures, and then you have dedicated feminists who are trying to look for empowered women in film, which I find that very strange and kind of frustrating. To go on a slight tangent here, I'm not I don't mean that in any kind of disrespectful way. I'm a feminist myself, and I take that very seriously. But I'm not the world's biggest fan when people cling onto something with very bare bones intent, or otherwise are just appreciating something for what it is at face value and not any of the in-depth stuff. Like, if you're gonna like something, like everything it has to offer, like all of the in-depth stuff, have a specific list of reasons as to why you like that particular thing, and not just because you can list off what's in it. Like, well, this case would be on the poster for the film, or what you see in the trailers. Like, you gotta like more to. There's got to be more to that. So I find it interesting, but also frustrating that I'm most likely certain is why a lot of why a lot of women are clinging to this film. But I'm not here to go into that. That's just a minor part of it. If I'm going to make an assumption, and I probably already sound like a jackass anyway, but by the fact that I'm mentioning it and the way I'm saying it. But that's one half of it. The other half of it is, probably smaller scale fans, or maybe just as big of fans of the series, and probably your casual movie-going audience or whatever, that are just bunched up together, that are just like, this movie isn't good. And that's that. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm in the gray area. It's fine, it's not amazing, but it's not complete crap. Because here's how I watch movies, especially these kinds. When I watch a movie, I have, especially something that's an adaptation of something, I have two halves of my brain that are dedicated to this. One half of my brain is watching it as a diehard fan of whatever that is, and watching it for the film that it clearly is, and just the fun factor and all that jazz. And then the other half of my brain is deconstructing and critiquing it as an actual movie. And then those two halves converge together to form my overall opinion about it. It's basically two different mindsets converged together to create a sort of neutral mind that can go into these kinds of movies, watch them, and have positive things to say while still have negative things to say. I think it's a very even playing field when I come up with my opinion and what I have to say. And I think that's how we should critique movies like this, but we just don't. We as people just don't do it. But that's how I personally do it. So that's why I fit into the area where I can say, yeah, there are things that I like about it, but there are things I don't like about it as well. And I wonder if there's anybody else like that out there, because there's interesting things about it. I mean, it's just a dumb, fun action movie that just happens to feature this iconic character, but it's just an interesting film. I mean, I was not like constantly. I was lightly engaged. There were some moments where I was kind of on the edge of my seat, like, oh, what's gonna happen next? Not to like things got so tense where I'm like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next in the movie? It was just kind of simple, like, oh wow, I'm intrigued. This is getting interesting. What's gonna happen next? And little things like that. Just a very minimum amount of genuine entertainment while watching the film. And that's just how I felt about it. I mean, the biggest highlight of the film is probably the acting. Alicia Vikander she nails it as Lara Croft. She is perfect as this character, and I'm impressed by what she brought to the table with this. And there's a few nods and things to the games that I found kind of adorable and awesome. But that leads me to my biggest complaint with what I don't like about this film, and that's all of the shit they rework and rewrite in contrast to the actual games. Now, when the project was initially announced, I thought, okay, great. There's a great focus on character and narrative this time around, and these games could have been they could have basically just took the basic structure or outline of the premise and put an original spin on it, and there's your movie. In this, they annoyingly crammed together the first two games into one movie. The basic framework and premise is the first game, but contains a lot of unnecessary components and elements of the sequel, and it's all jammed into one movie. Right out, and it does, and that's just part of it. And then they go to great lengths to rewrite and rework many elements from the games. Now, I'm not going to go into complete spoilers. I don't know why Just as as I thought about this topic, and I thought about, like, do I want to spoil the movie? Do I want to just, or do I not want to? I'm not going to spoil the movie. I'm going to be very tame about this for some reason. I honestly couldn't tell you why. But they rework a lot of but they basically take all of the lore, kick it to the curb, and say, we'll take notes, but we're doing our own thing because, fuck you. It's our movie. Or something like that. And it's really in your face and very obnoxious. Only a fan of the recent games will notice and acknowledge that. But considering that a good chunk of the people watching this movie most likely are fans, are probably going to be annoyed with this, and that's another problem, another tangent too, is just, why do they need to rewrite or retcon all of this information when creating a movie? You don't need to explain it to the audience. It could just be as simple as, you got a plot to get along to. You don't need to sit here and drop all this reworked information that's not only going to make fans who know this stuff, know the real stuff, ticked off, but might confuse people who watch the movie and want to play the games afterwards. It's a really confusing mix of shit that just doesn't work. And this movie's no exception. It does. In the beginning of the movie is an entire exposition dump explaining not only the setup of what the plot's going to be about, but also, like, the main, just a big drive of it. If you remember from the first game, from Tomb Raider, premise of the game, the premise of the game is that Lara and a bunch of two-dimensional supporting characters go to an island and have to survive, and then discover that it's the reason why all this weird shit's happening is because it's being controlled by the spirit of basically a witch. That's basically the drive of the movie. And the opening of of the game, the opening, that's the game. In the movie, I apologize, they completely, again, kick that to the curb and completely do their own thing with it, where they not only give us an exposition dump, but completely rewrite all of that, including, but primarily Himiko, the witch on the island, and her backstory, and all of that shit. And I'm like, God damn it, movie. Why? Why do you have to do this? Why do you have to do this? I know this information, and you're not only reiterating it to me, but you're changing it. And it's annoying. I don't like that. And that's basically the whole movie. They take bits and pieces of lore, characters, and the whole 9 yards, and completely do new and original things with them to an annoying, obnoxious degree that's just painful to sit through at times. Some of them are clever, and are clever and kind of adorable to see on the screen. Like, oh, that's kind of cute. That's nice that they did that. I like that little reference or wink that they did to the games. But then the majority of it is just annoying. There is probably one of my biggest gripes with redoing information was, how do I phrase this? Was Lara's necklace. Now, you all remember, if you played the game or read the tie-in comic book, we all know the necklace. It's all part of Lara's look. Now, in the games, it's almost a crucial part of her character, because the backstory for that is that was her first treasure. That was her first find growing up. Lara was 5 years old on an exposition with her father, and she's just roaming around the site, and she finds this little piece of jade in the dirt, and she's so excited. She's just so giddy that she immediately rushes over to her father to show it off, to show her, like, hey, look, Dad, look what I found. But he's too busy tending to other stuff to really notice, and she's just kind of disappointed. And then Roth comes along, who's sort of Lara's mentor and surrogate father figure, and shows it off to him, and he's like so impressed and so proud of her, and it's just a really cute, a really nice moment. But what really cements it is that Roth then takes a bootlace from his shoe, and takes that piece of jade and turns it into a necklace that he, gives to Lara, and that stuck with her. That stuck with her since. That's a big part of her character, on a very emotional level. That level, that's practically fucking character development right there. That's a big piece of her character. But in the movie, they completely throw all of that out the window and make it just something that she gets from her father. Like, in the movie, it's basically just a thing that her father gives her, and then she pawns it off to pay for the expedition to get to the island. It's all of its meaning to her character and her development, like her arc as a person, it's completely done away with in the film. And crap like that and similar to it is scattered throughout the whole thing, and it annoys me so much that it's just kind of painful and unbearable, and it made me cringe multiple times watching the movie to have to see shit like that happen. And it makes me wonder, did the people that that worked on and created this movie have absolutely no love, care, or consideration for the material? Like, outside of Alicia Vikander, who did anybody actually care about the brand that they were adapting to film? Because that's kind of what it feels like in certain instances. And it really frustrates me, but only if you're only a fan of the games and know these things, you're probably going to be the only ones that notice. And it's just a weird, confusing thing. Like, maybe they're banking. Like, maybe some people will notice, some people won't, or maybe we're being super clever by reworking it. No, it's not clever. It's annoying. I can't stand that crap. But another big thing, and this really isn't a spoiler, is the end of the movie. Now, if you remember from the first trailer for the film, there's a very particular shot where Lara dressed in her casual attire, but with that very notable braid that's a throwback to Lara's classic look from the 90s, is getting a matching pair of Heckler & Koch pistols, very similar in design to the one she uses in the classic games. And you know where I'm going with this, and me and my best friend speculated that would be the last shot of the movie. Turns out, yeah, he was right. We were right. That is the last shot of the movie. It is so painfully cringeworthy that it was just, that's the note the movie wants to leave on. That's the note it wants to leave on. Is it not only does it want to obnoxiously set itself up for a sequel, which we honestly don't know if it's going to get one, but it wants to leave us on this note of, oh, so all of this time showing us this more original but newer version of the character, yeah, we're going to completely throw away all of that as well and just revert her back to her classic self. No! The whole point, idea of this movie was to adapt. This was to do an adaptation based off the newer games. But instead, you do kind of do that and then immediately want to revert the character back to her classic self from the old days. And I'm just thinking, what the hell is this movie trying to accomplish? That's not clever. There's nothing clever about that. It's just annoying, and I can't stand that shit. And that, again, things like all of that stuff like that, and similar to it, is all throughout the movie, and it just bothers me to an immensely high degree that I had to talk about it in some capacity. But again, that's not me shit-talking the movie or anything, that's just me griping about the things I didn't like. Overall, if I can look past that, and I somehow managed to, I can say, and have said, it's a fine movie. It's not garbage, but it's not amazing either. It's in the gray area where it's just fine. Where I'd say a wide range of people could sit down, whether you like the games or you're in the casual movie-going crowd, can sit down with less than 2 hours to kill and watch a dumb, fun action movie. This is it. If that's what you want, you just want to watch a dumb, fun action movie that you can, crack wise with your friends, or just have something fun booming in the background while you're working, like I do sometimes. I sometimes watch movies while I work on stuff without really paying attention. It's good for that. If you just want something simple and fun to watch, that really isn't anything special, Tomb Raider fits the bill. But yeah, it exists. It ran its course. Who knows if it'll get a sequel? Juries, I really don't care. I guess my big verdict is, as long as the games themselves are doing really well, then I can overlook shit like this when it fails. When it basically fails. But it just interests me that there is such a divide for this film and not a whole lot of people that fit into that middle area that's just kind of like, it's not great, it's not bad, it's fine. And that's really, I think that's a takeaway too, is that we just need to learn to watch these kinds of movies with sort of glass half full and just enjoy them for exactly what they are. And that's just dumb fun. So, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Did you like the film? Did you dislike the film, or are you like me and fit in the gray area, as I keep repetitively saying? Let's talk about it. That's really all for now. Thank you very much for watching, and take care.